It's almost its golden jubilee, but The Empire Strikes Back still sits on top of every best Star Wars film list, even after an entire galaxy of sequels, prequels, and Disney-era spin-offs. If you're a Star Wars fan, you probably think you know the story behind the movie. The freezing scene, the walkers on Hoth, the reveal heard around the world. We've all talked about them endlessly, but the truth is, you've barely scratched the surface. Because behind all the action, all the fan theories, and all the I am your father memes, this movie was a battleground of reels, snowstorms, frantic rewrites, broken bones, tight deadlines, and budget disasters. So today, we're jumping into 20 facts you never knew about The Empire Strikes Back. First, the moment every fan knows, but not the way they think. Number 1, The Empire Strikes Back's most memorable line is also its most misquoted. If you walk up to any casual moviegoer and ask them for the most famous line from The Empire Strikes Back, they'll confidently say, "Luke, I am your father." And they could have been confidently wrong. The real line, the actual word-for-word quote is, "No, I am your father." There's no Luke in that sentence. None. Zero. But the misquote spread so far and so fast that even people who haven't seen the movie can recite it incorrectly. It's one of the biggest examples of the Mandela effect, where millions of people remember something the same wrong way. The original line is sharper, more shocking, and far more personal. Vader isn't addressing Luke by name. He's confronting him directly, breaking him psychologically. That's why the moment hits so hard. It's intimate, brutal, and perfectly delivered. But pop culture loves neat sound bites, and adding Luke made it easier to parody, reference, and meme. So the misquote won the war, even though the real line is even cooler. Before fans could even begin to argue about the famous line, Alec Guinness couldn't wait to get off set. Number 2, Alec Guinness filmed his scenes very quickly. Sir Alec Guinness, the legendary Obi-Wan Kenobi, was always a bit amused by how intensely people took Star Wars. He didn't like the role, so when George Lucas asked him to return as Force Ghost Obi-Wan, he agreed under one condition: make it quick. Guinness filmed all his scenes in a single day, between breakfast and lunch. That's right, every line of dialogue, every quiet moment, every ghostly conversation with Luke were all done in mere hours. To his credit, Guinness had other acting commitments, and on top of that, he was recovering from an eye surgery. He literally showed up, delivered his lines with the perfection only a veteran actor could manage, and walked off set like a legend. George Lucas later said that Guinness brought a calm seriousness that held Star Wars together, even when the story went full Space Wizard mode. Quite ironic that the most spiritual character in the story spent the least amount of time on set. Guinness moved fast, and the next group had no choice but to learn faster. Number 3, the rebel troops were played by locals. If you ever thought those rebel soldiers on Hoth looked unusually, genuinely cold, tired, and fed up, there's a reason. Most of them weren't actors. They were local Norwegians, hired on the spot to play rebel troops. The production needed lots of bodies to fill out Echo Base. Instead of flying in dozens of extras from the UK or the US, the crew realized the locals were already bundled up, already used to the cold, and already built like people who shovel snow for survival. Some of them didn't even speak English. They were simply told and shown, run here, fall here, look scared, look colder, now look even colder. The authenticity shines through. Those wide, frantic shots during the evacuation, those are real people dealing with real snow in real freezing temperatures. If you think that was the only struggle the movie faced, buckle up, because the production chaos was only just beginning. Number 4, like A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back was hit by many production issues. You'd imagine that after the massive success of the first Star Wars, making the sequel would have been a lot easier. More money, more experience, more stability, right? Wrong. The Empire Strikes Back had just as many problems, if not more. Cameras malfunctioned in the cold, budgets spiraled, the schedule slipped, sets weren't finished on time, puppets were failing, effects shot weren't working, snowstorms shut down filming. Crew members got injured, and since Lucas was financing a lot of the film himself, we'll get to that in a second. Every setback was basically burning through his personal bank account. The pressure was so intense that Lucas had to take out massive loans and even face the possibility of losing his company. All that technical magic we take for granted today, like stop-motion walkers, optical composites, and puppetry, required precise timing and often took weeks to finish. Just one mistake meant starting all over again. In a way, The Empire Strikes Back is the perfect example of how beautiful things can come out of total chaos. Speaking of chaos, one actor seemed to constantly attract danger, and his injuries became a running joke on set. Number 5. Mark Hamill injured himself frequently. Poor Mark Hamill. If something could go wrong during filming, it usually found its way to him. He suffered repeated injuries on set, including bruises, cuts, and strained muscles, especially during the lightsaber training and the Wampa scenes. Hamill had to perform far more physical action in The Empire Strikes Back than in the first film, and because he was still new to stunt-heavy acting, he pushed himself hard and occasionally beyond his limits. There's even a long-standing rumor that some of Luke's injuries on screen were written to help explain Hamill's real-life facial scars from a car accident before filming started. While the full truth behind the rumor is fuzzy, what's certain is that Hamill was constantly getting banged up while trying to make Luke's journey feel real. His commitment shows in all its black and blue glory. Speaking of Luke, let's talk about Han Solo and the elephant in the room, the giant sci-fi freezer. Number 6. Han was frozen in carbonite for a specific reason. We all love the carbonite scene, the lighting, the music, the I love you, I know, exchange. But behind the perfection was a very real, very stressful issue. Harrison Ford hadn't signed on for the Return of the Jedi yet. Ford was unsure about continuing as Han Solo. He wasn't against it, but he wasn't fully committed either. So Lucas needed a story option that worked whether Ford returned or not. Carbonite became the perfect solution. If Ford doesn't come back, Han stays frozen forever, and the story moves on. If he did return, great, thaw him out in the next movie. It was a narrative safety net, disguised as drama. The brilliance is that fans never suspected anything. To us, it was emotional, shocking, and unforgettable. Behind the scenes, it was basically contract insurance. The problem was brilliantly solved, so the crew moved on to something bigger. Number 7. A real Millennium Falcon was constructed. For The Empire Strikes Back, the crew did something no one had ever attempted in film history. They built a complete full-scale Millennium Falcon. Not a model, not a partial set, a massive walk-around life-size starship. The first and still only one ever constructed. This beast had working lights, moving parts, and was big enough for actors to walk under, circle around, and interact with like it was a real ship. And because the Falcon was supposed to be a piece of junk, the team overloaded the exterior with panels, wiring, scorch marks, and grime to make it look beaten, flown, and lived in. Hollywood never repeated the feat. Every Star Wars film after this used sections, partial builds, or digital models, but never again a full physical Falcon. And yet, building a giant starship was nothing compared to the next challenge. Number 8, the creation of Yoda was not straightforward. Before Baby Yoda captured the world in 2019, the original Yoda nearly broke the production in 1980. Creating a small, wrinkled, convincing alien who could talk, move, blink, and emote, all without CGI, was a monumental task. Yoda required multiple puppeteers, complex internal mechanisms, and a carefully built swamp set that gave Frank Oz enough room to hide under the floor. At first, the puppet looked too stiff. Then it looked too goofy. Then it looked too creepy. At one point, Lucas reportedly panicked because Yoda wasn't working at all and threatened to derail the entire Dagobah storyline. Frank Oz and the puppet team spent weeks fine-tuning the mechanics, experimenting with skin materials, adjusting facial movements, and refining Yoda's expressions until he finally felt real. But once he worked, he worked. Audiences instantly believed him not as a puppet, but as a character with history, wisdom, and depth. Now that leads us straight into one of the coolest behind-the-scenes connections in all of Star Wars. Number 9. Yoda had links to the Muppets. You can thank Jim Henson, the creator of the Muppets, for helping bring Yoda to life. Frank Oz, the voice and puppeteer behind Yoda, was one of Henson's closest collaborators. Lucas approached Henson for advice when Yoda wasn't working, and Henson encouraged Lucas to trust Oz. He even offered resources and guidance to make sure Yoda came out expressive and believable. This crossover explained why Yoda had this perfect blend of wisdom and charm. There's a reason fans instantly connected with him. He was built using the same principles that made the Muppets feel alive: precision, personality, and character-driven movement. Lucas was so impressed with Oz's work that he campaigned for Oz to get an Academy Award nomination. It didn't happen, but the legacy speaks for itself. Yoda is easily one of the most iconic characters in film history. But Yoda wasn't the only major creative force behind the movie. One of the most important contributors never got to see her work come to life. Number 10. The first writer was a female sci-fi legend. Before Lawrence Kasdan shaped the script we all know, the very first draft of The Empire Strikes Back was written by Leigh Brackett, a pioneering female science fiction author who's called the Queen of Space Opera. Brackett had written classic sci-fi novels, pulp adventures, and even film noir scripts. Lucas respected her ability to blend characters, world building, and adventure, which was exactly what Star Wars needed. Tragically, Brackett passed away before the movie was released, and before she could complete her revisions. Even though Lucas significantly reworked the script with Kasdan, he insisted that Brackett receive full credits. It was his way of honoring her legacy and acknowledging her foundational role in shaping the story. And speaking of shaping the story, the next fact dives deep into Lucas's original vision for the entire saga. Number 11. Lucas had originally mapped out 2 Star Wars sequels. Before Star Wars became the giant franchise we know today, George Lucas was already thinking ahead, but not about 9 movies. He was considering just 2 possible sequels. He wrote one sequel in case Star Wars became a massive hit, and another in case it completely flopped. The flop version was smaller, cheaper, and more self-contained. It was something he could afford to make even if the studio walked away. The hit version was bigger, bolder, and closer to the story path we eventually got. Lucas didn't know which world he would wake up in, so he planned for both. No one knows what the flop sequel is like, and we probably never will. While Lucas was mapping out the saga's future, the crew was dealing with possible frostbites. Number 12. The opening scenes were filmed in Norway. Everyone remembers the icy wasteland of Hoth. But what most people don't know is that those scenes were not shot on a soundstage or inside a controlled fake snow set. No, The Empire Strikes Back actually dragged the entire production into the brutal winter wilderness of Finse, Norway, where temperatures dipped so low that even Tauntauns would have refused to show up for work. They picked Norway because the winter of 1978 to 1979 was one of the harshest in decades. Blizzard after blizzard buried the region in thick snow, which gave the team the authentic, unforgiving terrain they needed for Hoth. The storms were so extreme that the cast and crew were sometimes trapped inside their hotel, and even those scenes became part of production. The famous shot of Luke stumbling through the snow was filmed directly outside the hotel entrance because the snow was too dangerous for the team to travel anywhere else. The harsh shoot in Norway wasn't the only challenge. Yoda's voice sparked its own behind-the-scenes disagreement. Number 13. Frank Oz says George Lucas didn't want him for Yoda's voice. In the world of Star Wars, Frank Oz is royalty. The man is Yoda. His voice, his timing, his little backward sentences, they're unforgettable. But according to Oz himself, George Lucas originally didn't even want him to perform Yoda's voice. Lucas respected Oz as a puppeteer, especially because of his Muppets background. But he wasn't convinced that the voice of Yoda should come from a performer known for comedic characters like Miss Piggy and Fozzie Bear. Lucas experimented with other voice actors and ideas, trying to find the right tone. Eventually, they realized something important. Nobody understood Yoda's rhythm and soul better than the person controlling the puppet. Oz didn't just move Yoda, he inhabited him. When Oz recorded his first full voice pass, everything clicked. Lucas heard it, paused, and basically said, "That's it. That's the character." It's definitely one of the best decisions in Star Wars history. And while Yoda's voice almost changed, another character's face didn't change, in a way that will surprise even hardcore fans. Number 14. The Emperor used to be a chimp. Before Ian McDiarmid gave us the unforgettable wrinkled menace we now know as Emperor Palpatine, the original version of the Emperor in The Empire Strikes Back was created using a chimpanzee. Yes, a chimp. Well, kind of. The earlier Emperor hologram was made by filming an elderly woman and then superimposing chimpanzee eyes over her face to make the character look strange, alien, and unsettling. It was a bizarre practical effect that somehow worked at a distance, but up close, it was nightmare fuel. Lucas didn't finalize the full Emperor character until Return of the Jedi, so this temporary creature-like design filled the gap. It looked mysterious at the time, but in hindsight, it's one of the oddest choices in Star Wars history. Thankfully, it only lasted for that one appearance. The Emperor was being redesigned, but another Star Wars icon wasn't thrilled about changes happening to The Empire Strikes Back years after it premiered. Number 15. Mark Hamill wasn't a fan of some of Lucas's tinkering. George Lucas is known for altering the original Star Wars films over the years. He adjusted effects, added creatures, tweaked shots, and occasionally rewrote moments with digital edits. Many fans have mixed feelings about these changes, and Mark Hamill is one of them. Hamill has admitted that he appreciated some technical improvements, but he wasn't a fan of scenes being altered in ways that changed the tone or rhythm he remembered performing. He once joked that Lucas would probably still be editing the movie if nobody stopped him. For Hamill, the original version of The Empire Strikes Back had a raw, emotional edge that didn't need polishing. He felt the performances and practical effects were part of the movie's soul, and touching them too much risked losing what made the film timeless. But long before the movie hit theaters or edits, Lucas had another difficult decision: picking the right director. Number 16. A lot of directors were considered. Most people know that Irvin Kershner directed The Empire Strikes Back, but many don't realize how many filmmakers Lucas considered before landing on him. The shortlist was long and diverse. Lucas wanted someone who understood character-driven drama, not just flashy action. He approached directors and backgrounds in crime films, comedies, thrillers, and even some European filmmakers who specialized in mood and atmosphere. Kershner stood out because he understood emotional storytelling. He knew how to slow down scenes, build tension, and make characters feel real, even in a fantastical world. Lucas trusted him because he wasn't a yes man. He challenged ideas, pushed actors harder, and insisted on depth. That's probably why The Empire Strikes Back feels different from every other Star Wars film. It's the one that focuses on relationships more than spectacle. And even the perfect director couldn't avoid the disaster that threatened to shut down the entire shoot. Number 17. A fire made filming even harder. As if snowstorms and budget issues weren't enough, disaster struck when a fire broke out at Elstree Studios, damaging parts of the set. It destroyed equipment, delayed production, and forced the crew to rebuild key areas while racing against the clock. Fires on film sets are already dangerous, but this one happened during a period when Lucas was paying for much of the production himself. Every minute of delay cost thousands. Every destroyed prop had to be replaced. Every damaged section of the set meant more time, more money, and more stress. The fire didn't stop production, but it absolutely slowed it. Not just that, it plunged the movie deeper into the financial and scheduling chaos that almost broke Lucas. You'd never guess it watching the film. That's what makes The Empire Strikes Back so impressive. The finished product looks smooth and deliberate, even though behind the scenes everything was falling apart. The movie didn't just evolve during production, it kept changing after release too. Number 18. The movie was tweaked after it was released. Most fans think a movie is locked once it hits theaters. Not The Empire Strikes Back. Lucas continued tweaking it even after audiences had already seen it. He adjusted visual effects, he polished transitions, he refined the Emperor's hologram, he updated lighting, audio, and even some dialogue timing. This ongoing tinkering is why there are multiple versions of the film floating around. While some are very subtle, others are more noticeable. Lucas believed Star Wars should evolve as technology improved, and Episode 5 became his playground for digital experimentation. Whether fans love or hate these changes, they're part of the film's strange, ever-shifting legacy. And one of the weirdest pieces of that legacy involves a cameo fans still joke about today. Number 19. We think Mickey Mouse made a cameo. Here's one of the strangest Star Wars myths. Some fans swear that Mickey Mouse appears in The Empire Strikes Back. The rumor comes from a blink and you'll miss it moment during Vader and Luke's fight in Cloud City, where a background shape supposedly resembles Mickey's round ears. It's never been officially confirmed, but the freeze frame community insists the silhouette is there if you look hard enough. Is it intentional? Probably not. Is it hilarious? Absolutely. And now that Disney owns Star Wars, the idea feels even funnier. It's like the universe retroactively approved the jokes decades later. Finally, let's talk about how The Empire Strikes Back performed where it mattered most. Number 20. It dominated the box office, but was not an Oscar darling. When The Empire Strikes Back hit the theaters, it didn't just perform well. It absolutely crushed the box office. Lines wrapped around the cinemas, the audience loved it, critics raved about the darker tone and the emotional stakes. Merchandise flew off shelves, and for many fans, it became the Star Wars movie. It was rare for a sequel to outshine its predecessor, but The Empire Strikes Back did it with style, heart, and sheer audacity. But the Academy Awards? They barely looked at it. The movie won a handful of technical awards, but received nowhere near the recognition you'd expect for a film considered one of the greatest of all time. Some say the Oscars didn't take sci-fi seriously. Others believe they didn't understand how groundbreaking the film's effects and storytelling were. Whatever the reason, the Oscar performance didn't match its cultural impact. But time proved something important. Awards don't define legacy, the fans do. And there you have it, 20 facts about The Empire Strikes Back. From Luke's shocking revelation to Han trapped in carbonite, from chimpanzee emperors to studio fires. The movie wasn't just a sequel. If you've been paying attention, you know The Empire Strikes Back isn't just a movie. It's a lesson in filmmaking, risk-taking, and storytelling that still influences Hollywood today. So hit subscribe if you want more behind-the-scenes secrets. Leave a comment with the fact that blew your mind the most, and definitely check out our video on Star Wars: A New Hope. We released 20 of the weirdest facts you'd ever see.